last time this happened was in '08. Recession and crash are coming. You borrowed $300 million to buy great real estate at bargain prices. Time to get rich coming again. Time to get smart, not greedy.
Well, always remember, America has stopped producing products. We produce bubbles. Now, the good thing about a bubble is when they burst, everything goes on sale. And so when things went in 2008, I waited till about 2010. I borrowed $300 million because debt is money, as you know, after 71. And I began buying real estate at bargain prices. So just recently, the repo market inverted again, which means we're going down. It means recession's ahead. But my concern is now revolution, because when people can't afford to eat tuna, we're going to have rioting. So it's a whole different type of bubble burst. When Biden took us off the pipeline, oil prices went up. Oil produces fertilizer. And when fertilizer is no longer cheap, people can't produce food. And the average American has nothing. 40% of Americans have nothing. Inflation is going to make them very upset. A stock market crash will bring down the baby boomers. So we're in serious, serious trouble here. I'm a U.S. Marine. I fought in Vietnam twice as a pilot. I've seen what happens when the communists, what people can see in the Ukraine, communists always kill civilians. And that's what people don't realize. And as a Marine, they sent kids and women after us. So a lot of my friends who came back with PTSD, and you can see it in the Ukraine today, Russia's not hitting military targets. They're hitting civilian targets.
People don't know that, like, Mao killed, I think, 110 million people. I think Hitler killed 44 million people. Stalin was one of the biggest murderers of all. History is written by the victor, right? Where the victor goes history. So it's fake. The trouble is, without a basic appreciation for history, the average young person doesn't know what they're looking at. What I think is funny, I'm so obsolete. I'm 74 years old. And I had no idea what was going on social media. What people may not realize is that history is disturbed by technology. For example, the Roaring '20s was caused by the radio. So when the radio came in, it was the new authority in the 1920s in the house. So the young people said, so mommy and daddy said, well, this is the way it is. But in the 1920s, my father's generation, they said, no, that's not the way it is. I heard it on the radio. Then my generation, the boomer generation, was television. When Americans started seeing My Lai and the atrocities of Vietnam, that's when the boomers erupted. But that was intentional because media is socialist, communist. They wanted to show every atrocity possible. So Americans would not support us in Vietnam. Our own media betrayed the troops on the ground.
Well, always remember, America has stopped producing products. We produce bubbles. Now, the good thing about a bubble is when they burst, everything goes on sale. And so when things went in 2008, I waited till about 2010. I borrowed $300 million because debt is money, as you know, after 71. And I began buying real estate at bargain prices. So just recently, the repo market inverted again, which means we're going down. It means recession's ahead. But my concern is now revolution, because when people can't afford to eat tuna, we're going to have rioting. So it's a whole different type of bubble burst. When Biden took us off the pipeline, oil prices went up. Oil produces fertilizer. And when fertilizer is no longer cheap, people can't produce food. And the average American has nothing. 40% of Americans have nothing. Inflation is going to make them very upset. A stock market crash will bring down the baby boomers. So we're in serious, serious trouble here. But what Marx said, they had to have the poor get poor and the middle class come down. And that was the recipe for revolution. And I see Biden doing it when he took when they took the Keystone XL pipeline and took us off of it, and oil prices went up. Now, the thing is, I got richer because I produce oil. I don't invest in oil. I don't invest in Shell or Exxon and all that. I invest in oil wells. So when oil went from $30 a barrel to $130 a barrel, I got richer, but I also got more concerned for my fellow human beings. They can't afford to live at $130 a gallon a barrel oil.
See, what happens in a revolution is the middle class can't go up anymore. So they start to come down, and then it crushes on the poor. This book here, written by Karl Marx in 1848, is coming true today. I'm not against unions, but unions are Marxist. Workers of the world unite, Karl Marx. It is censorship, it is totalitarianism. It's just like, Trudeau of Canada, he shut, I don't know what else he's doing, take money out of banks and all this. When is this going to end? And my poor dad was head of education for the state of Hawaii, PhD, Stanford, Northwestern University, Chicago. He knew nothing about money. And when I read this book here, The Communist Manifesto in 1965, because I went to military school. And in military school, they said, you have to know your enemy. And I realized, I hate to say this, but most of my friends and family are communists. They just don't know it. They're anti-rich, they want to tax the rich, and they're pro-union. I'm going, holy mackerel, and they have no financial education. And you see the gap going so big. My concern is what I can get into is revolution.
It's the end of America. We have communists, as a Marine would say, inside the wire. They're inside our government, they're inside our school systems, they're inside Hollywood, and they're inside Silicon Valley. When Biden cut down the XL pipeline, he made me a rich man because oil went from $30 a barrel to $130 a barrel. I produce oil, I produce gold, I produce silver. I'm an entrepreneur. I don't play the stock market, but I am concerned about my fellow human being. I don't care what you are, white, left, pink, green, pink. I am concerned because 50% of Americans are broke. Inflation is going to wipe us out. I don't have any stocks. I don't invest in the stock market, but they're my companies on the stock market. So the best deals are always done early. So when people say, do you invest in Bitcoin? Yes, when it was $6,000. So Solana is still early and it's got a possibility, it's a long shot. It's the same as a can of tuna. A can of tuna may be worth more than Solana. We've got to know what's real today.